Welcome to Greedy Pig Podcast, where we discuss business with self-made entrepreneurs. Today's guest, actually our first guest, is Mike Hitt.
What's up?
Owner of MCM Studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Also a guy that's worked with people from Jelly Roll to Pittsburgh Steelers to Netflix, and an artist himself.
Thanks.
Yeah, that. Mm-hmm. Very impressive guy. Don't even know where to start.
And I worked with you.
Yeah, back in the day, yeah. Very true. So, Mike, you have a very inspirational story.
Thanks.
You started from being homeless to owning one of the most successful recording studios in all of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell us about your background and how you got started.
Well, if people follow me, they've heard this story a lot, but I'll tell this story again, especially for your viewers because they're all new. A long story short, really, is I come from nothing, a kind of like rags to working on my way to riches story, right? And I was in music my whole life. Like I DJ'd, did the artist thing, still am an artist, right? Production, making beats, the back-end technical stuff, like even how this wire works with this microphone. And I did that for the whole first half of my life, right? So I didn't go to school for it, but I was in the field. I was like working with people. I was having people at my house. I was doing shows, throwing shows, networking with people, buying new equipment, buying plugins, just wanting to just immerse myself, right? I think that's why like people go to college is for whatever they want to do is it's a complete immersion into, okay, like this is what I want to do and this is the path that I'm on, right? And I'm around other people doing it and I'm getting educated on it. And so I wasn't really a conventional. I did one semester of college and I said, this is not for me. All right. I tried even when I was in college, I was still like DJing like bars and homecomings and parties. And I'm like, no, music's what I want to do. And so I did that for a while. And then I got off the path. So this is like a good thing for your listeners to hear who want to start their own business or they have self-doubt is I had about a 2-year span where I had like the 9-to-5er, I call it the 9-to-5er mentality get into my brain. And it's like, hey, you need a good job, you need benefits, you need to find security in your life. And this was, you're talking about 2007, 2008. So is that long ago? Yes. Is it? But also no. But we didn't have like the internet, and we had the internet, but it wasn't so like social media. Everyone can do, sell things online, make a profit. It was like a new time. Even to have a website, people looked at me like, I have to book on a what? Like in 2007, I'm like, all right, you could just pay me cash when you come. And so I got my CDL, and I was like on the path to that secure, work 30 years, retire life, I didn't have to take no risks. I would go get my paycheck and come home. And right when I started driving and I got into a position, because it took me like a few months to get my license, and then like I bought a car and I was just getting on my feet because like I said, I didn't have anything, and it took a long time to get to there. Like I was waiting tables, I was DJing parties, I was recording people at home. And one morning I was coming home. It was like the first 2 weeks I started working, and I got in a car accident and it shattered my hip. And it was like in 3 different places, and I was down. It took me like 6 months to walk again. Wow. And in that time, I had a friend who came to me in about like March. And what's funny is this happened on, I always see this number, 123. I still see it every day in my life. But my accident, before my accident, I would see that number all the time. And my accident happened January 23rd, right? Yeah. And I saw that number like for a year leading up to that. And I didn't even make the connection until I was like in the hospital. And I was like, okay, like this is really weird.
Do you still see it?
Now more than ever again. And it's kind of concerning because like, here's another thing in my life is I see patterns in the world, and it always, like, I know it's going to lead to something. And then when it happens, it could be good or bad. That's the good thing, is like, it's never always a bad thing. But when it happens, I'm like, oh, that's why I was seeing that all the time, right? So I get into the car accident. I was at home, leg up, hanging out, healing, and my buddy came to me, and he's like, hey, I got a place, the place you guys been. He's like, I got a spot in a building. I think it would be great for you to open a recording studio. If you want to go check it out when you're walking again, let me know. I'll take you. So I had a lot of time from March until, that was end of May, when I was like kind of like finally moving around. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's go see this place. And I went and saw it, and it was like as soon as I saw it, it was a complete dump. But as soon as I saw it, like I saw what it is today.
You saw the vision.
Like I saw all of it, and I just came home, and I just remember being like, I'm not going back to work. I am going to open a recording studio, and whether it's a bust or it's a success, at least I could sleep at night knowing that I did it, because this is a lesson in like compiling what you're good at, right? It was like I DJ'd, I rapped, I wrote songs, I made beats, I recorded other people, like all of these things were just stacked up, and I'm like, and I went and got a CDL,
Something
and
doesn't fit, right?
like I'm like one of these things is not like the other, right? So I'm like, okay, like I have a whole pile of these skills, and then I went, which I'm still grateful for, I went and got this skill. And I'm like, okay, like I'm just going to open this studio. And I was always recording people at home, like I said. So I had like, people say, how you get clients? Well, I had a dozen or two clients who were like, oh, if you open a studio, I'll at least come once, spend some money with you or whatever. And then it was like, boom, now here we are on this podcast,
That's crazy. It's almost like the accident, like said, hey, you're not meant for this.
No. And it felt like that. It legitimately felt all of it made so much sense as it was like coming at me. And I'm like, I can't go back. I'm the youngest person at this place that I'm working by like 20 years, because that's the type of job like older people get, and they just kind of like, it's an easy job, coast through. And I'm like, no, where's the tenacity in like the skill that I've built since I was like 13, so.
And I feel like you're such a high energy person. Like I always say, like your energy is infectious, right?
Yeah.
Don't really get to use that in a truck.
No.
Maybe if you're on the call, just singing to yourself or something. That is a crazy story. I heard parts of it before. I didn't know you broke your leg. I didn't know that's why you switched over.
I got a long rod like this, and then like two small rods like that, and it like fused it all together.
It's like you're Kanye West through the wire.
It is,
right
through the hip.
Yeah.
What's crazy, a quick like side thing, is it wasn't as simple also. Like I had complications in the surgery, so I'll never forget, and this probably added to me making the decision to jump, right, is I remember it was 10 o'clock at night. I had my surgery the next morning because it was like an emergency surgery. So I was in the hospital. My accident was in the morning. I was in the hospital all day. Doctor came in at 10 o'clock. 7 a.m. was my surgery, and he came in to tell me, fantastic doctor. A surgeon, I should say. I wish I could remember his name, but you could tell like he was one of those surgeons who he had like a point to prove. He's young. He was really and I'm so glad that I had him, because like he came in and he just laid it all out for me. He's like, I got to tell you that there's like a 50-50 chance that I'll have to cut your leg off tomorrow. And he was like, because of how it broke, and we can't get in till tomorrow morning. And so they have my leg. I still have them. So they drilled, which you would think you'd feel this, but I didn't feel this that much. They drilled a metal bar through my leg to put it on traction to pull it away. Oh, okay. That way the bones weren't like that, Yeah. And so I was like that all night. And he told me that. I'll never forget him saying that, bro. And I was like, he was like, you need a second? I was like, yeah, I just need a second.
I feel like that would be a tough night to sleep.
Yeah, and the lights were like dim. I was asleep. It was crazy. He came in, and the only light that was on was the bathroom light right there and the glowing of the TV light. And my room was dark, and him and his two assistants were with him. And he told me that. He was like, woke me up out of my sleep to say that. And I just remember, like, for like 10 minutes, like, I was just like in tears, right? Because I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like, how did my life get to this point when I worked so hard to make my life better?
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm here, you're telling me you're going to take my leg. The car that I just bought literally that year is a wreck, right? They had to cut me out of my car, and I'm just sitting there like, none of this makes sense to me right now. And then like once I got my composure, I was like, okay. I was like, this is going to be okay, right? Like, you know, some people might call it like toxic positivity, but I had to like talk to myself and be like, dude, like before you freak out, like we need to just take a second and realize that he said, which is a sick mindset that you need in business. He said there's a 50% chance I'm still going to have that.
That's true. That's a good way to look at it. Half full,
So,
right?
yeah, so I was like, it's not over till it's over. And like so thankful that next morning I woke up at 11 and the sergeant came in. He came in again. It's now the sun shining. And he comes in and he's waking me up. He's like, hey. I'm like, huh? He was like, we didn't have to take your leg. And again, I was like bawling my eyes out for like 10 minutes.
Just relief. You know?
Yeah, like I'm like, I made it. Like, oh my God, I have both my legs. And it was like, you know, that is a great lesson for your viewers and people who want to get into business is like, you can't give up until there is no other option, you know? And maybe even with one leg, I would have probably still opened the recording studio, you know?
Well, it's the thing, you know, you have to take it, you know, whatever life gives you, right? Like, never quit, pivot. But like you said, you have to stay positive because
Have to.
nothing's ever as bad or as worse, you know, as it seems, right? So,
Yes.
Yeah, and like they always say, your health is your wealth, right? You don't realize what you have until it's gone. You're a millionaire if you have your limbs right now and you can see.
Yeah.
Plus, you're a big outdoors guy, too. So, like,
Huge.
I mean, I don't know if you were back then,
Yes.
but, like,
I was always active, swimming and hiking and biking and like that. All that ran through my mind, you know? And what's crazy is after that, it was like 10x. Like I remember I was like walking around him and like my boy would like be over. He'd be like, "You sure you should be doing that?" I'm like, "If I can put weight on my leg, I'm gonna put weight on my leg." And I
so just skipping down.
just doing the best I can. And like, you know, you had to get the blood thinner shots because you were sitting all the time. And I was just like, that's another thing. I was so adamant, even in the hospital that first 2 weeks. I remember them coming for physical therapy and I couldn't leave until I did a certain amount of things, right? And they knew my leg was all right. And I was in and out of there every day. I'd be like, so I'm good now, right? I can leave. And I couldn't even step on my leg. And they're like, well, no, we have to like get you acclimated to like what you're like. And every day, as soon as they come in, I was like in my bed, like, you ready? All right, let's go. Because I'm like, I have both my legs and I have to focus on like just getting better.
Yeah.
And I had just got on my feet. I didn't live at home. Literally, I was in the hospital and I had an apartment that I was paying rent on, you know, that I just got. So it was like, it wasn't like, and I didn't have a nest egg. So I had like, maybe like a couple grand, you know, and that was like, once that ran out, I was up Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. So you had to kind of get moving, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you've been in the music business for a very long time.
Yes.
Now. When did you start? How old were you?
I was 14 DJing my homecomings and semis and proms, and the school was writing me a check. And here's how I got into that, right? I had just moved I was a city kid actually, my whole life, and then moved to the Mon area. And I was brand new kid in school, right? And I didn't own actually any DJ equipment, okay? I just knew that I had like a beat machine and I used to like loop beats on tape. And I remember I was in chorus class and bless her heart, Miss Ellis, I'll never forget it. I heard her talking to the piano. It was like from here to that chair, and she's talking to the 9th grade council, right? The council members, like, you know, there's always like the 3 girls.
Okay,
they plan the dances,
Sure.
right? Yeah. And she's like, and I'm just sitting there. I don't know anybody. I'm in this room where there's like, it's chorus class. There's like 70 people. I don't know anybody. And I'm just BSing with whoever this was next to me. And I hear her be like, man, the DJ backed out. I don't know how we're going to do this dance for next Friday. And this is my first like paying gig at 14 years old. And I was like, I DJ. I didn't even know how to turn on a turntable at that point. I had no clue. And she was like, you can DJ next Friday and it was like in the lunchroom where it was just the 9th grade dance, just the 9th grade class. And I said, yeah, I'll be ready next Friday. I just need to get the check now so I can be ready. I got to get just a couple things. And she was like, all right, well, this Friday, before you leave for the weekend, go in the office and they'll write you your check. And these are a lot different times, right? This is like end of the 90s, 98, you know? Okay. And I'm like, okay. I took that money that she gave me. It was $300. And I went on Musician's Friend. And I bought 2 belt drive turntables. I went to the mall. I bought 8 records. That's all I had, 8 vinyls. I bought like Black Rob Woe. I bought like Jay-Z Big Pimpin', like whatever was the hot single.
Sure,
and then
hits.
Yes, and then I had a lot of CDs. I had a ton of portable CD players. So that whole next week was me figuring out, much like you with this podcast, like how I can connect it and play it. And I had in my room, I was so into music, I already had like big speakers and receivers and stuff. Okay. So it was like a hodgepodge that I put together for this dance. And like all of it, right? And what's funny was I had DJ lights and stuff just from like, that was my interest as like a kid, 12, 13-year-old kid. And so I put everything together. I did that dance. And I wound up doing that. That carried me through high school because then everyone hired me for like, I would DJ at house parties. I would DJ.
Oh, you had students like hiring?
The students. Oh. The students would tell, because now I'm in 9th grade with them and we're cool. And so they're telling their parents, oh, I want my buddy to DJ my party, you know, my birthday party or the semi or the homecoming. Or I was even in 10th grade DJing the senior prom. Okay. You know, I didn't even go to.
So you're not a cool freshman.
Yeah.
Right, right.
It's a good place to be in high school.
That's a way to become like a popular guy.
And at the very least, now I like cemented, like, hey, that guy knows music, you know? And so I would sell, like, I would make mixtapes, burn them, and bring them to school and press up like 25 of them and sell them for $10, you know, or I'd be like, hey, come to my house, give me $10, I'll record you or something, because now I had the stuff. Yeah. And so now that's where the marriage of creativity and commerce was, right? And I know sometimes artists, they don't want, you know, they're like, oh, I don't want to charge for my art, or I don't want to, you know, it's not about the money, you know, and it's not about the money, you know, and it kind of is about the money, but by me making that connection so early, like by now I was like not afraid at this point in my life to be like, no, I need like $3,000 to do that job.
Yeah.
And not even blink an eye, you know, and other people were like, can I have like $100, you know? And that marriage, again, of the two things, commerce and creativity, like it built up, like, it just built like, I know you guys like, Hermosi, right? Alex Hermosi. Yeah. And that's what he said. He's like, you know, there's 3 types of people, way you make money. There's like the pure businessman, like you understand how to like set up funnels and stuff like that. Then there's like the artist who like they just make money off of like the art, right? Like they're like Michael Jackson, they're like whoever, just or
Picasso,
or Van Gogh, painting, right? They do it by selling their actual art. But then there's like the middle where it's like by nature, it's like you're trying to figure out how to sell your art and you're into business, the funnels, and that's kind of like where I fell, was like in that middle spot. And then I was like, okay, like, I could actually make a lot of money doing this. And I was young, you know? And so then it's like to the point where my parents were like, are you selling drugs or something? Like, and I'm like, no, I'm like, because I was never home. And when I wasn't having a gig, I'd go to the mall and I would literally walk around and sell like tapes to people that were just shopping at the mall. And that was a thing at one point where like, you know, people walk around, hey, check out my music, right?
Okay, so that's before my time.
That was a whole era of like just like walking around with headphones, letting people hear it, and then they would pay you for it right then because there wasn't streaming services. I couldn't get a record deal because all the record labels, they controlled it, right? So there was a time there where like now, I mean, the power is in the people's hands, right? Like you guys can start a podcast and your podcast is just as legit as any other podcast. The only difference is you're just now building it for the major distribution, right?
That's true, because like, you know, before this, we'd have to call up NBC or ABC, something like that.
We got this idea.
Yeah.
Send them your logo, your business plan. Yeah.
And then who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you know anybody? No. Well, hang up.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. Like you said, it's in the power of our hands kind of now.
Mm-hmm.
But that is cool that you got that, you said the e-commerce or the commerce,
and creativity.
Yeah, because, you said, like, money doesn't matter. Some people think that, but, like, the money drives it.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to work another job to, get your money, well, then you can't work on your art as much.
Yeah, and you only have so much, like, willpower, right? Like,
and time.
Or time, and it's, like, it's so easy to get burnt out, and so that like, balance is, like, so key, and the only way to get the balance is, like, okay, like you say, I don't want to work another job. I just want to do this, make money from this. Mm-hmm. And it worked out, thank God.
Exactly. So how did you transition from DJing to then recording?
Recording, it was just like I opened the studio, right? Everything was like, again, we're stacking the skills. And I had a turntable and I had vinyls, and now I'm buying records that have instrumentals on them, right? Because it'll be like the dirty, the clean, the instrumental, the acapella. And so I'm like, and then I have like microphone because I'm a DJ, and I have like a mixing board, and I'm like, hold on here.
What can I do with all this stuff?
I can record my voice on this beat, on that tape, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so wait a minute. I'm like, and then it's like, I'm using someone else's instrumental. Okay. I'm like, well, how do I make the beat? And it's like, okay, then I got a Boss SP202 is just like a little sampler. I'm like, okay, like now I make my own beats. I figured out where to find samples. Again, pre-internet, I had to go figure out. Sometimes you would buy a piece of equipment, like an expensive keyboard or something, and it would come like with a CD that had like, there'd be like 300 tracks on it, but it would be just like bing, boom, and there'd be 300 tracks, but it wouldn't take up 70 minutes, right? You could have as many tracks, but you can only have 70 minutes. Okay. So that's the trick, right? And so I learned that like some people would buy like a keyboard, and they would get that CD, and the CD would be sitting around. I'd be like, hey, let me get that CD, and then I would just be able to like play it through, sample that, put it on the pad, right, and then make the beat. Yeah. And it was very limited. It was like 16 seconds of sample time. That was like the max. So I'd have to take like a little like snippet excerpt from something like a and then put that on, be like and then call someone up, be like, bro, come to my house, we're gonna record this record like right now, and I just wanted to practice. Sure. And so like I was DJing. If I had any piece of advice, it's so crazy. The DJing taught me like everything I needed to know, right? Because the DJing taught me like what's a good record, what's not a good record, how the bass and highs and mids are.
That's a good point. You get like instant review or feedback from it.
Instant, and it's like, and I'm able to see people react. And then like when I'm DJing, I can like mix in a record that like, or like even a drum break that I made, and see how they react. And so now I'm also breaking the barrier of like second guessing myself. So that's like kind of like my next lesson. All before I turned even 18 was like I got so resistant to like people being like, I don't like that, or that sucks, or I do like that, or whatever their opinion was about it. It got to a point where I was like, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And I already had that epiphany like so young that I was like, okay, now I can make money from it, and then also what people say about it really doesn't even matter. And that was,
it's all like opinion based too, right? Like one person might hate it, and then obviously, like we like different musics. Like everyone has their own preference. So.
Yes,
it's better to be the creator than the hater, anyway.
Yes, yes, that's real.
That's a good quote.
And no one ever hates on you who ever did what you did, right? Like usually the people I know who do what I do, it's like community. Like we have conversations about business and how's your business? Hey, how's my business? Like we do it with each other,
Yeah, we were just talking about the other day. Like no one equal to you or above you hates on you. It's
never
always someone below you that's like jealous or
always
doesn't want you to succeed.
Yeah,
like
or sometimes even, and I put a lot of thought into this, sometimes a hater is really someone who they don't know how to redirect that energy of like they are kind of disappointed with themselves. You know what I mean? Like, they want to do something. And so, like, it's just easier to be like, screw them, they suck. And rather than be like, man, like, I want to be there. Like, how can I do that? And they could easily come to you and be like, how can I start a podcast? Like, what kind of mic is this? Instead, they're like, this is stupid. What you're doing is stupid. The logo's stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, screw that greedy pig.
yeah, it's
like the pig.
it's just misdirected. And at the end of the day, it's something else I'm learning. Even when you lash out at somebody, we'll say, and like later you kind of feel bad about it, like maybe you road rage or someone at the fast food kiosk or something, or even your girl or something like that. It's like a unhealed trauma, really, like where maybe your stepdad was mean to you, right?
That's true. Something
and
like underlying
issue, and it's like that emotional awareness to have the capacity to be like, it's not you. Like, I don't hate you. I kind of hate me, but I don't hate me, and I'm just trying to figure this out. But it's hard for people. That is like one of the hardest things most people will do is be like, I got something. I got stuff I got to work out up here. Like, I got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own kind of trauma or issues, right? Like, everyone has something, so that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you handle it. So if somebody were to want to start a recording studio from scratch, so like our younger viewers or older, anybody at any age, and they wanted to start today, how would you recommend they go about that and get their very first client?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say don't go balls to the wall at first. Like, don't rent a building and buy equipment and like spend like $100,000. I've seen those studios go under, you know, where they got a settlement or something. I spent $50,000 doing it and they never even recorded someone yet. I say, just like I did, if that's really what you do, go into the community of artists and musicians and just record some people at your house, you know, like get familiar with like even this, like interacting with people and like egos and different creative differences and ideas. And you got to kind of learn, especially in a creative job like recording studio, you have to learn, man, your people skills have to just get sharp.
So that has to be more than half the job.
That's like
you know, it's not just like a technician in there. Like, you're the, I want to say coach, but like the motivator or like
you're the producer,
the HR person.
Yeah,
doing
like,
everything at that point.
pretty much, yeah.
Like Quincy Jones was like, you know, like Michael Jackson was a phenomenal artist, but then Quincy Jones was a phenomenal producer because he was able to like tell Michael, why don't you go home and rewrite that part, you know? And tell the engineer who's just mixing, who only knows the technical end, hey, can you add a little more kick to that beat it? You know, like, we want that to hit a little harder. Like, being able to, like, be at the place I'm at now helping my buddy, that's funny. He's like, you're really good at directing traffic here, you know, because it's like having that skill to be like, hey, you're good at this, you do this. And I need you to just move a little faster on that, you know? And it's like being able to like see that in people is like probably like one of the most important parts of running a recording studio, even before you start charging people.
I mean, I'd say for any business, like delegation, we just talked about scaling, right? If you can't do that and you're kind of shy or don't want to like, you know,
then you need to be behind the scenes.
Exactly. You're the worker then. You can't be the manager, the delegate.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like,
yeah, everyone has their own kind of preferences.
It's a lot of stress to be the guy who has to tell the guy, hey, I need you to do a little better.
Well, especially like in your example, you're like, yo, make that beat hit a little bit more. Well, now you can't put yourself out there like, maybe that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yes.
So you take that responsibility.
Yes.
But when it does work,
yes,
you get the glory. So
imagine being the guy to tell Michael Jackson that he's not singing too well that night, right? That would be interesting.
That is funny.
You know, hey, you're either going like Michael Jordan said. You know, he's like make it or miss it. I want to take the shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. So once you get past that point, then you know you have a few clients.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked out the kinks, the bugs. You're getting more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You're gaining skills. How much overhead do you think it is to, say, start a professional studio?
That's a good question. We're talking like monthly overhead or initial investment?
Like initial investment and then monthly from there.
Okay. You know,
What's the monthly? Just like the space?
Yeah, I mean, you got space. You're always buying plugins, like always. Like I'm always faced with a new issue that I'm like, I need this denoise thing. I need this EQ. I need this compressor. I need this reverb. I need to go buy auto-tune. Like you're always like upgrading. So I need new mic cables, a new mic. I need new foam in the booth. Like there's always like these monthly things making music. Upkeep. Yeah. There's that. There's like, the rent on the space. There is like simple things like waters and, tissues and stuff that your client needs just to even like be comfortable, right? So, I mean, you could either do it for out of your house, like I said, like a couple $100 a month, or you could do it for a couple $1,000 a month. But I feel like that median, like if you can get away with like, hey, my expenses are like, I don't know, $1,500 a month. If you're running a recording studio. But again, all that fluctuates like crazy. Like,
how about like the initial investment then with like the equipment? Again, like let's just say like, not high end, not super low end, but like what you would recommend for like a middle grade kind of.
Like the setup.
I know it's a hard question.
Yeah, it is hard because people ask me at the studio all the time, how much does all this cost? And remember, I was like, this is a good question from you because, again, this goes back to stacking skills, right? When I opened a recording studio, I had everything to open a recording studio.
Yeah.
Like, everything. Like, through the 20 years of my life, I was, like, buying a set of speakers, buying turntables, buying a mixer, buying a mic, buying another mic, buying a cable. So it's like by the time I got there, I might have spent 10 or 20 grand. Like on everything, but that was like over time, right?
So we went a little bit different with this podcast.
You just
we had none of that. Yeah.
We ignored the whole lean startup on this. Yeah,
we got some of the stuff, and we're using some of other people's stuff, which it's funny because, like you said, you upgrade stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever we run an issue with a computer, we got too good of cameras, so now the computer can't handle it. So we were complete.
That's what happens. Yeah, that's what happens, dude. It's all the time too. It's all the time.
Yeah.
So from that point, client acquisition. Do you do paid advertisement or is it more organic?
So my case is unique in that I don't run any advertisements. All of my clients came through like word of mouth. And like even like I said, I had like a dozen or two clients to begin with. And then it's like, hey, my boy John came to you. I'm going to come to you. Hey, my boy Steve, Hey, Lil Rock from McKeesport said that you're the man on auto-tune.
Like snowballs, yeah.
It just keeps going. And the most important thing is just, hey, can I get a session Friday at 4 to 6? Yeah. And then I'm there 4 to 6. You'd be surprised how many artists come to me and they're like, I booked a session and the guy didn't even show up, like at another studio. And I'm like,
oh, really?
Very common, more than you would think it would be. And then they come to me, even at big name studios.
Like, people, thanks for showing up.
Yes, yes. And it's like, it really starts, once you show a client, hey, I'm going to be here when I tell you I'm going to be here, and I'm going to give you the best job that I can give you. They're pretty much, unless there's like ego involved with them or it's a financial issue, they're pretty much going to stay with you for like ever. I always say like, a barber.
I was just about to bring it up. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like,
it's like an engineer.
Unless you get like a terrible haircut.
Yes.
If you're comfortable and like the waist not too long.
I'm always coming to you.
Yeah, no. Exactly.
I'll be here every 2 weeks
until I die, unless something happens. Yeah. I feel like the only time I changed barbers was COVID. Because one shut down, the other was like kind of doing some stuff. I was back like it was place, and that's the only time.
That's the only time, yeah. like people like reliable and familiar and comfortable, and especially when you're in a setting that's so personal, like a barber, like recording music, like anything that just involves this
relationship.
Yeah.
I know you worked with everyone from rap artists to country to doing ebooks to working with Netflix. So how does it differ working with a corporate client like Netflix versus somebody, say, producing their first song?
Oh, the budget, dude. It's like a guy, the lead at Netflix, the kid who like he's the guy who's just supposed to call the studios and organize everything, right? That's just his job. And I'll never forget, he said to me, he called me one day. It was great. I'm so grateful to talk to him, and I'm booking. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm like, I'm gonna charge him a little more. Like, I'm gonna charge him like $200 an hour, right? It's like Netflix, and they're gonna book out 3 hours. I'm gonna make double the money. I'm gonna be happy, right? And he says to me, he's like, look, man. He called me on his own personal time, and he was like, they have a budget of like $1 million. He was like, so I just want you to know, and he's like, I want you to carry this information with you because I really like you and you really delivered, that itemize everything you do and then charge these companies for that itemization. So when I send an email, I'm charging you $20. When I have to convert it and it's a digital conversion, I'm charging you $40. And I'm charging you $200 an hour for the time. And I'm charging you $5 a bottle of water. And I'm charging you $20 for the parking space and all this stuff. Yeah. Everything. And so what a kid from McKeesport would come to me and pay $200 for, I'm charging them $2,000 for. You know, and that's really like the biggest thing. And those jobs don't come all the time because, especially being in Pittsburgh, it's like the Netflix, the Hulu jobs, you know, it's like
probably more West Coast.
Yeah, way more West Coast or New York or whatever. So they come here because they get tax breaks and there's a big like the extras here, like that work on set. There's a lot of extras in this city, and I guess this goes as far back as like, you know, like Batman, when they filmed Batman.
I was just gonna say, I feel like there are a lot of, not a lot, but a
like
good
people
amount.
who do that.
Yeah, like the I forget. There's a couple other movies that I've seen that just use Pittsburgh.
Sudden Death. You know, that
She's Out of My League, I think, was here.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing, the budget, man. Like, I would love the corporate work, but here's another thing. It's a little trade-off, but it's not a lot of trade-off in that, like, they have very specific specs also. Like, I need it to be this bit depth. I need you to send the files through secure servers. Like, I'm not emailing. I'm logging into they have like a IBM makes a secure server for film and TV industry. And so you have to get a login for that. And that's how you send files to like anyone major. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing goes through e-transfer, emails, none of that.
How about creative? Like, do you still have like free range, or does it still have to be?
They actually loved that. That was like another cool part was, so I'll be on FaceTime with the producer, and then I'll have the talent in the booth, and like, just by nature, because that's how I am, I'll tell the guy, you know what, like, say it with like a little more anger, right? Because we're doing like a voiceover. He's like, Sarah, get in here. And I'm like, no, I need you to go, Sarah, get in here. And like the producer's looking at me, and she's like, yeah, that's what we needed. So then the next time they hire me, I'm like, okay, I'll be on the call with the producer. And they're like, no, they just said they'll just let you lead it and just send them the stuff. And I'm like, well, that's great. And here's another good thing. You'll charge them for 3 hours of time and all that minor stuff. But if you work for an hour and 13 minutes and they get what they need, they're done. Keep your money.
Oh, wow. So you said you don't do paid advertising. How do you land a job with like a Netflix or a Hulu?
I got really lucky in that, again, when I started, the internet was also starting. Like the idea of like go online and look up where to go eat, where to go record music. And so the good thing about me in my thinking is I've always been like relevant, forward thinking. Like I'm like, oh, the internet's going to be a big thing. Digital currency is going to be a big thing. Like,
you're the first one to kind of mention the social media stuff, and like your kind of profile, whatnot.
Yes, exactly. And I was just like, you know what? I need to start. Since way back, and I've said this to like dozens of people, I always saw the internet as digital real estate, right? And so I was like, I need to have a website, and that's like me owning a house on the internet that I can rent out, right? And so I saw that way back then. And so by doing that, you guys know this, my age on the internet, as in Mike Hitt, MCM Studios, like SEO favors that before everything, right? They're like, no, like you've been on 10 years. Like, we're going to favor you over the guy who just opened yesterday.
For sure.
And so, like, Netflix will my phone will just ring, and it'll be like, hey, I'm John. It's California. We have a guy. We need to record an hour thing with you. You know, boom, $500. Come on in, you know?
It's really just the hard work compounded and then the algorithm of Google and the internet from just having so many hits over the years.
Yes. And, again, it's like the theme of my life talking to you two, actually. It's like just the stacking. Like, I just always am like, and even when I have a bump in the road and the stack is only like that. I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. And I figured out, like, okay, now we're back to the rhythm again. Like,
yeah, just keep building on it for sure.
Yeah.
The question, so you kind of, this future teller, and you kind of see these things. Did you get into Bitcoin,
I did. I got into it when it was $1,800, and I bought half of one. And I told people, and I didn't have the balls to buy the whole one, right? But I was like, I bought a bunch of other stuff too. Like I bought all the other coins that were there, like Ethereum and all that. And those I bought like multiple ones. And I wish I would have. I was like, man, and that at that time I'm like, fuck, man, I'm like $1,800. I'm like, I could just lose this. And that was a lesson in like just take the chance. Yeah. And so, like, I just rode that, and I'm just letting that sit because, half a Bitcoin could be $500,000 in 10 years, so.
Yeah.
And Ethereum could be Bitcoin's number, 60,000, 70,000.
Well, hey, your next vision, you text us.
Yeah, share it with us.
Yeah.
We'll share it with you guys.
We're here to make money. Greed is good. Welcome to the pig
Greedy
tribe.
pig, yeah.
Greed is good.
Yeah, so the cat's out the bag. I own some crypto, and it's just a hedge on investment for me, just as far as like and you just always another thing for entrepreneurs is like sometimes they get so frivolous with the spending, and you have to always. Here's another thing: I'm really successful. Doesn't mean I don't have a week where it's like, man, like my overhead's crazy and I ain't got no work this week. Like, what is going on, But then the next week I'll have 10 jobs and I'm helping my buddy run the thing and I'm doing the other thing. And I'm like, holy cow. So you want to be able to put money, you want to try to save enough money to where like you just perpetually go forever.
You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about all the time, like the ups and downs of business, so you have to kind of prepare for those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right, now to ask you something just a little goofier.
Yeah.
Let's hear your worst experience at the studio you've ever had. We don't have to say any names here.
My worst experience, man. What was my worst experience? It wasn't even music related. The place where I have the studio, we had some guys come in. They were like homeless, like just people who steal copper. That's what we'll say.
Okay. Yeah.
And they came into the studio, not into the studio, but into the building the space is, kind of like this space is. And for like a week or two, they wreaked havoc and they stripped all the wire in the building of all the copper. I'm talking all the
just
electric.
random people, not like
Random people,
gotcha.
right? And, dude, they almost started a fire. There was a giant explosion on one of the floors because they cut a like a 3-way breaker, like the big fat ones.
Yeah, like the power.
And they 3-phase. That's what it's called, a 3-phase breaker, and that's for like a warehouse where you got elevators, everything. Yeah. And they weren't smart enough to realize this, and they tried to just cut that wire.
Surprised they didn't get hurt.
When the fire people came, there was pants on the ground that was burned out right here. And you could tell that whatever that explosion was like there was smoke in the building, and so that jeopardized like basically my life's work, right? And luckily I was really like in with the owners of the place, and they called on me to kind of like keep an eye on the building while they redid everything, and that was just like a huge headache in like.
Did you just shut down for so long?
For like 2 weeks, and so that caused a damper in that, and then the uncertainty again, like we talk about. I'm like, oh my goodness, and then the fire chief comes in, he's talking about like occupancy issues and things, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, and luckily, I was just like persistent and was able to bounce back from that. And that was the worst experience because, again, that just happened like 2 years ago. And that was like a major just like, what's going to happen from here?
Well, especially when like there's nothing you could have done to prevent that.
Nothing.
Out of your control.
Exactly.
And luckily I had came to the building one day. I came there. And there was one of the other guys who like had space in the building, and he came out. He's like, I think there's like smoke or something in the building. It smells like something's on fire. And I had just randomly came, and then I contacted the owners. I'm like, dude, something's up here.
Yeah.
Like the power is acting funny, all that. And that's when we went up higher on the floors, and then we just saw like all the wire was stripped.
Yeah, good thing you came to the building, huh?
Yes.
Wow. That's all I have to say about that. Wow.
Again.
You might have some psychic gifts, man. I don't know.
Dude, I could go on this Greedy Pig podcast for the next 5 hours and tell you so many things that were just like serendipitous, like just right place, right time. And I've experienced it with George. Even I've experienced it with you. Like we've experienced it with me where I'm just like, I can't explain it. Like I was just like beaconing, like magnetizing that thing to happen.
So that being said, do you think everything does happen for a reason in life?
Yeah, man.
I know, deep question.
It is, because I think about it a lot as far as like just the is it pre-planned, you know? Because it's like I did all that stuff leading up to running a recording studio, but it's like if I wouldn't have done all that and learned all those lessons, and then it's like now I'm on this podcast with you and you recorded with me, and it's just like the design of it.
Everything's intertwined, kind of.
Like in a way that's like not so just like, we could try it. No, it's like there was so many steps to even me being on this with you guys, which like thank you for like asking me to be on it, and it's like almost like my duty as a human being, as Mike Hitt, to like listen to that calling and not be like, mumbo jumbo, I don't believe in. It's like in a way I almost have to believe in that, right? Where it's like things are meant to be. So when you say we want you on a podcast, I can't be like, I don't know. No, it's like, oh, okay, so, okay, God, this is the next thing I'm supposed to do, right? I understand, because I don't know who's going to see it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Don't they call that predetermination?
Yeah.
When you believe that everything's planned out specifically?
That's like destiny. It's the same thing, kind of.
And even if it's not perfectly planned out to the T, there's got to be at least some sort of structure that, like, with the illusion of like free will, like it's like a video game, like okay, now I'm here and I have 3 choices, you know, and it's like all those choices are also predetermined, but it's all programmed in, and so like it feels very organic because you have that choice, and there's so many. It's like you play a game, you're like, there's 5 endings, and I played it and got all 5 endings.
Yeah.
But in life we only get one ending. Right, and so it's like I'm just constantly trying to choose that, like, all right, do I get angry? Am I in between, or am I sad? You know, it's like I gotta pick each time.
X squared triangle.
Yeah, right.
I like that. So obviously you work extremely hard. One of the hardest working people I know.
Thanks.
What do you do to unwind? Like, how do you find that work-life balance, especially with something as draining as the studio, where I know that takes a lot of emotional toll on you?
Yeah, I always say this, actually, because people think that I'm just like plugged into the computer all day. And you said this earlier in a podcast, is as soon as I can unplug and be outdoors, that's my preference. Like when I come to your house, and it's funny, we're chilling at your house, you're like, you want to go for a long walk? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Like, I don't want to sit here and drink or anything. Let's go for a walk. Let's hike as far as you can take me, as my body can take me. Swim, bike, disc, like just conversation. Like I'll hit you up, you know, and come over. Like I just want to disconnect, because we're so connected all the time. We're always connected. Like I'm always on my phone posting statuses, and we're here connected to this, and that's pulling us into it connected, you know, and everything.
The phone one, I'm big on the phone, but
huge.
That's why you guys need to get out golfing. I've been trying to get him to go for a while. My phone is zipped in my bag when I golf for 4 or 5 hours.
When I disc, same thing. I don't want to look at unless I have to use the UDisc app to keep track.
That's why I said we keep 18 birdies as an app.
Yes.
And like I always try to push on someone else. Like you keep score. Because I don't want to look at it, because I know I'll, peak on my
peak,
yeah, I agree with you. At the gym or when I go for runs and stuff, I just keep the phone away.
Yes.
It's like a nice break to unplug, especially since we all make our money using our phones and laptops and technology, and sometimes you have to separate yourself from it to actually really unplug and enjoy yourself.
Well, I've been learning from you more about, like, because you use the focus mode more. And I started doing that a lot more. So
that's a big
I think
feature.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to get work done when you get like 50 text messages.
Oh, especially when I have my headphones in and like it's like beeping. Like it starts reading the message. I'm like, how am I supposed to get work done when I'm hearing these messages being read?
I learned that from George too, actually, because I'll text George and I've actually been at your house when you were like getting texts or whatever, but you won't respond to them. Like you have like a time for it. And I took a cue of that from you, because I'll even text you and it might take an hour for George to text you back. But I don't take it personal. I'm like, George is busy. And he'll get back to me when he's done with that thing.
Yeah, or sometimes just unwinding, just time on it.
And,
hopefully I don't miss an emergency. But at that point, they'll probably call Kirsten or something, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
She's always good to pick up. So.
No, I'm the same way. Like, even today, I was telling him, like, we had a call earlier for business, and then, like, my family, like 3 or 4 people called me.
Yeah.
All wanted to call me at the same time. I'm like, I answered the first one, and I could just tell I wasn't, like, giving enough. So the next 2 I didn't answer.
Yeah.
Like you said, hopefully it wasn't anything important, but sometimes you just need a little break.
My girl now does that. It's crazy. Like, it's funny because, like, my girl has, like, an old spirit now in that she won't even, her notifications will be silenced for me, and it's like she won't be on her Facebook or anything until like a certain time. And that's what she says to me. She's like, I just can't, because it like draws you in. And it's like as soon as you get sucked in, you're like, now you're there. And you have to like
the death scroll.
Death scroll, yeah. Like it's easy to get sucked into that, dude. And we all do it. Like one funny video turns into 100 funny videos, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
There's so many times I'm on my couch. I'm like, I don't know, 9 o'clock. I'm like, I'll watch TV or just scroll my phone for 10 minutes. I'm scrolling like it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, where'd the hour go? Just wasted that,
Yeah. Like in 1 second I'm laughing, and the next I'm crying because the guy's dog died, and then I'm learning about business, and then I'm also like celebrity gossip, like all in that hour, and I'm like, oh my God.
A lot to consume at once. Yeah.
Very true.
So with the MCM brand, what exactly does that stand for? Obviously I know, but
MCM, middle class millionaire. I said that in a song that I had said in like 2007. We were like recording. I was with a couple people. We were recording, having fun. And I said, I'm the middle class millionaire. And in my mind at that time, that was like doing good with what I had. Like that was like real big to me. It's still big to me now, because like I try not to get too lost in what I don't have yet. And I try not to get too lost also even in how far I've come, right? Like I always try to like be in this moment with you guys, not checking the phone, right? Like being in the moment where I'm at. And so like middle class millionaire, I just wanted that to like embody that sort of just like here and now. Everybody's included. It's like all inclusive. And here's another thing with the middle class. It's like we have rich middle class, we have middle class, and we have like poor middle class, right? And I was thinking that, and then we have poor and we have rich, right? And then there's like mega poor and mega rich. But I'm like, that middle class area is like, we all kind of like share that space, And so I wanted us all. I just wanted something that made people not only feel like welcome, but also feel like the millionaire adds a little bit of like hope, right? Like, oh, okay.
I like the name.
Yeah,
sure.
like I could like, I could be more than I am, But until then, love life, live rich, I'm still going to like, just whatever I have, that's going to be my wealth for right now until I get that more, right?
I like that. Appreciate what you have, but don't settle.
Right. Never settle. No.
That's a good way to look at it. Never heard that way before.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Never settle. Take a break for sure, but just don't settle.
I love it. So besides music, if you were to start another business, say money wasn't an object, and you were able to do something based off just your passion, what do you think you would do?
Stack them, baby. Stack them. That's what I'm doing now, actually. This year, I've done a lot more one-on-one coaching, and that has been very rewarding. Like, so yeah, I can charge a premium because I'm selling my knowledge and I'm selling my time.
Is that to producers or to rappers?
To
or both?
People who want to get into music. Okay. So singers, rappers, guitar players. The range is crazy that I coach one-on-one. And my coaching, I really focus on like I don't want to just teach you how to play guitar, teach you how to rap, I want to focus on like the core of like why you're doing it, what you're doing, the accountability of you doing it, right? So I'm kind of
the passion.
The passion, like what direction. It's like I like to fuse the life and the passion, because that's kind of like what my life was like, right? Like living and also trying to like make this a reality that I do. And so that's what I do for my clients. And I would love to start taking on like premium paying clients, where, hey, I'll pay you thousands of dollars for you to push me years ahead, and like right now it's like
jumpstart your career.
Yeah, like rather than you going through all the time I took, you could just pay me, and I'll be like, don't do that because it's going to waste your time.
I feel like that's a big wave right now, right? The kind of the coaching space. Yeah. So they're kind of getting the right time.
Yeah,
right?
And here's an unfortunate thing too, right? And you guys know this, like there's a lot of people coaching where they just like popped up coaching. Like, what's your history really, right? They're just like charging for coaching. And luckily for me, again, that paper trail that I have online, people are able to go and see like, oh, like, man, like you have this knowledge. I want this knowledge. Like I can see what you've done.
I know, I get that because like my uncle, ex-MLB player.
Yeah.
And we're starting something for him, and we're like, we see these coaches and, I don't know if they made the high school team.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yes.
And so it's like you said, it's kind of cool that you can obviously prove like, hey, I've been there, done that.
Yes.
I have the credentials.
Yes,
with it.
I understand what you're going through.
For you greedy pigs watching at home, middle-class millionaire masterminds, they're going to be held in West Virginia mountains.
Yes.
2 weeks with Mike Hitt. No cell phones allowed.
No cell. I would love that.
Bring your disc, right?
Yeah, no golfing, just disc golfing. If you bring golf clubs, they're getting thrown in the trash.
Oh,
sorry,
shoot.
That's all right. That's all right. I like disc golf. There was a course up at Barron. We used to play all the time. But.
I love discing. That's like, when I'm discing, like nothing else matters, man. It's crazy. But then as soon as I'm done, like my mind is clear to like make more progress.
I love that. So for somebody starting out in the music industry now, let's say doing a recording studio, what advantages do they have starting today that you didn't have when you started?
Oh man, just like the affordable access, like like mixers and plugins and the knowledge is like abundant, right? And granted, yes, you have to like sift through like the BS versus the real stuff, but I mean YouTube, and you can get a computer and camera. I mean, dude, when I wanted to buy a computer and Pro Tools, that was like $2,000, and you're talking about $2,000 20 years ago. So I'm like, how am I going to get $2,000 to get this? And then once I get it, I would have to go to Barnes and Nobles and buy a Pro Tools book and then sit down and be like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. It wasn't like I wasn't able to like see it on a video. And then like see that's a huge. I use it now, like fixing my car or something, like going on YouTube and being able to see the guy do it. I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense than like reading a manual.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner, so that's
same.
A lot. But
dude.
Like you're telling a story about how you're making beats with your little CDs. That's like that seems nuts.
Yes,
sure, like,
it is crazy.
Completely different now, right?
Yeah, even access like sounds. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, a kid can make, and this is like. It's good for you if you can, again, it's like you need like a Brita filter for information. It's because there's so much like there's like almost too much. And so that is like also the flip side of that coin, where it's like the advantage to someone now, right? But the disadvantage is the distraction. Like we say it, the phone, the amount of knowledge, the amount of options, the amount of choices. Whenever I was coming up, the choices were slim. Like you were buying these turntables, you were buying this program, you were buying either this computer or that computer. It's like, and then I was able to more focus on the like honing the way it works for me, right? Like being in my room for hours working on something and not distracted by anything. That's like a foreign concept now, where like nobody in the world knew that I was just in a furnace room practicing on Pro Tools, right? And it's like now I'm on this podcast, and it's like that's what it takes. That is that is the guy in the gym all year, and then you see him at the beach, and you're like, you look so good. I can't believe it's like overnight. It's like, no, I was in there 5 days a week.
Yeah, you didn't see all the hard work.
You didn't see that,
You didn't see the Rocky cutscene.
You didn't. You didn't, and that is what. And right now, so it's like so disheartening because people jump right now. Like I know, dude, I've seen multiple people that I've recorded, open recording studios, and fail within the first 6 months, right? And maybe they were inspired by me, or they even came to me for the advice or to do it, or they were like, they felt that they could do it better than me. And it's like, it's so much more than just like, you know, and you guys will learn with the podcast. It's so much more than like, okay, now I have a space to do a podcast, but it's like there's so much more to it. Mm-hmm. How do we grow it? How do we make it become one with this podcast? You know, like I'm one with creating music through that behind the scenes hard work, you know? And so now it's not like a facade. Like I've been in studios where I was with producers and they're like clicking things like this and they're looking at me like this and I'm looking at them like, you don't really know what you're doing, do you? And I'll be like,
was he waiting for you to help him out?
But he just didn't, you know, they don't want to feel like, you know, I got it, you know, and I'm like, you don't really got it. And look, I'm not here to make fun of you for not getting it, but let me sit down and do that real quick because you're going to waste a lot of time.
Playing with like a fidget spinner.
Yeah, right.
Saying, messing with the treble.
Yeah. Like when I walk into a room, it's one thing I'm confident about musically is like when I walk in somewhere and like even if just one person knows of me, I know that room is like we're in the presence of someone who knows what the F they're talking about. You know, like you can't bullshit a bullshitter, right? And I've been in rooms with people for other things, like where they're the man in whatever that they do, and you can like sense that, you know. And I think nowadays, like we said with the coaching, there's just a lot of like
phonies out there. It's a bad word, probably.
But like you know,
imposters,
yes,
a better word.
Like it's easy to make your social media. You can paint a whole picture, and that's why I love this because it's like when you get around someone like this, you can tell like who's about it and who's not. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to look that way online. It is so easy. And I've met those people and I was like, that person actually doesn't know anything. And this whole time, it's like there's a saying, you know, never meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know how many times I was in a studio, no names mentioned like you say, with artists that are like, and not the artist I mentioned to you before the podcast. He's great. Yeah. But I've been in there with some high-profile people, and I'm like, wow, this was really all an act. And, like, you kind of, like, broke my heart for real.
Oh, jeez.
You know, like, I travel to California or I go to New York, and I'm in the studio with, like, a big name. And, you know, and those guys are always the ones, too, the ones that are faking it when you meet them in person. They are assholes because that's like all they have left to hold on to like feed you the illusion that they're better than you know.
What do you think causes somebody to become that way? Say somebody that had a following, they put in a little bit of work, and then they ended up just falling in love with the image versus the process.
Gas question, dude. I just think that it's like it's the downfall of man and like the ego, right? Like for all that I've done, even in myself, I just try not to get lost in like, and I have this conversation with my close friends and clients a lot. I try not to get lost in like, you know who I am, you know what I've done, you know what I mean? Like I know people who haven't done anything who do that, right? And like we meet them and it's like, dude, like
who are you, right?
Yeah, like
I don't know.
Yeah, like you've done some cool thing, like maybe you've done a cool thing, maybe you've won one trophy one time doing something, and they hold on to that, right? And like guys like us have won 300 trophies, and we're trying to figure out how to win 300 more. And it's like whenever you let go of that, you fall into that trap, you know, that you just get complacent. You're in your own mind about being bigger than you are.
It feels like insecurity because, like
insecure.
You said, you have that one kind of, say, trophy, right? Well, you probably, like, that's all you're going to get. So you're really insecure about giving that up.
Yes.
If you're just continually to get better.
Yes.
Well, you just get another one if you want to.
Yes, so. Right. Yes. And I would like, again, that's the difference between someone you meet who knows and they don't know, right? Like, they got one trick, and once you see that trick, it's over. I like to be, like my girl says to me, I am predictably unpredictable. in that like you kind of know what you're gonna get, but at the same time it's like bring them around because we still don't know what we got.
Yeah. Every good group has a wild card. So.
Yeah. And like the bachelor party, that was like very wild card.
That
was
a good time. Let's not talk about that too much on the podcast.
That was a good time. Though.
It was a great time.
Yeah. So with the future of the music industry, then, since you can see the future, we've already established that earlier in the podcast. But in all seriousness, where do you see it going? You've seen it go from selling actual, was it tapes or
tapes?
Tapes,
CDs. Then digital,
exactly.
LimeWire.
LimeWire, yeah.
Then you've seen streaming.
Where
do you see it going next from here?
Man.
Holograms.
Yeah, it's, so right now we still have an era of people who like value the human artist with the music, right? And I think that there will always be an element of that, but there's young kids now, right? They're 5, they're 6, they're 7, they're our nieces, our nephews, and to them, like, a song is just a song. Like they don't care who's tied to it, who's connected to it. Like they just want to like the song that's on Roblox, you know what I mean? Or like the song that's on TikTok. And even TikTok, you go to an artist's page and it's like the one song has 7 billion views and then every other song has 100,000, right? Because like
I feel like I'm that type of guy. I don't know who sings the song.
You don't care, right?
I don't care. Yeah, I can't even tell you the lyrics. I just like,
Yeah, play that song, that cool song.
Yeah, and then when I hear one song, I get, I just put down repeat. I wear that thing out.
Yes, I joke with my one friend because he's a lot like that, even worse than that. And I'm always like, you're the type of guy to be like, hey, Amazon, play cool music for me. Like, you don't know, like, you just want like to sound cool, like, and I think that, we are going to reach a point where AI kind of does fuse with the fan, and it's like even the live show won't necessarily need to be a person. It could just be a whole show and tied around like that song. Yeah, and it could be fireworks or a visual show or, I think we're just going to start to like really, I hate to say it, like it's just going to start to get more just watered down, because then the labels, like did you see the label, I forget what label did it, and they had an AI artist, and it did like all these streams and got really popular, and the label fed the money. You can Google it on your own, viewer. You'll find it. Just look up AI artists label, and they pumped, the label, they're the bank, so they're pumping money, and like there was big backlash because they felt it was so unethical to pump all this money into an artist that wasn't even real. They were like pumping out AI songs with an AI artist with just a robot.
I've seen something with like AI models before.
Yeah,
like it's just, and they're getting like millions of views and stuff.
Millions of views.
Yeah, I never thought the AI,
And it's gonna get to a point. And here's another thing: it's all gonna fuse, right? Where even the, I mean, it sounds crazy, but like even the porn, right? Like the computer is going to get so good at like making the image real. We're already kind of there with the Chat GPT, and the Google has a thing where 1 minute of video, it can make like a city, where like you can go and get exactly what works for you. Music, movies, porn, whatever. And it's like, and it's going to look real, and it's going to be exactly the person that you want. And that is where it's going to be so like personalized.
They'll like scan your brain or something and find the exact perfect beat, melody, everything
yes.
specific.
Do you think we'll have a portion of the population that just say plugs into the metaverse and enjoys all that thing, so they're on a constant dopamine rush and then just escapes reality permanently?
Yes, because have you been in the Oculus metaverse yet yourself?
I have not.
Okay, so I've been there, and there's a recording studio there. Right, and you put the Oculus on, you go into the metaverse, and the metaverse is a whole place where it's me. It looks like me in there, and I'm with all these other people who look like themselves. And you can go watch an NBA game. You can go to the recording studio. We can get together and play 3-on-3 hoops, like actual hoops, passing the ball to each other, shooting, and that's the metaverse. And that is a very real thing that right now kids 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are in, and then also people who are forward thinking, they're also in there, right? And it's like that, when you're in there, the hours go by. Like, I can't even tell you. Like, 10 hours can go by like an hour went by. Because the stimulation is intense. And if you ever get the chance, and I'm sure all the people who have an Oculus that are going to watch this know this, yes, we're already there, actually. The only issue is, like, the user base is, like, what? Like a few million, right?
It reminds me of the movie Ready Player One, if you ever did that movie. But
absolutely. I mean, you could go in, like, you and me could go into the metaverse, and then we could be, like, play airsoft, right? And they have, like, an airsoft arena in there. And we can all get together after this podcast, and you can let 3 other people know. And we can go in there, and we can live chat. You can see my lips moving. And it's just like this, but there. Right now, it's like that. In 2024, you can do that right now.
Imagine 10, 20 years from now. Right?
Is what I'm saying.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing for society?
I just think for the human interaction, like the flesh. I'm not even going to say the human. It's the flesh interaction. It's bad for that, right? Because, like, now you can, again, look however you want, sound however you want, be however you want, and just think, if you can fool people with your Instagram, right, and you still have to exist in the flesh, what happens when you technically never need to exist in the flesh anymore?
That's a good point.
Ever. And because there's people in there, there's another thing. There's, like, moderators. That's another thing. Like, when you go in the metaverse, there's Facebook moderators. And it'll say on top of their name, it'll say Mike Hitt, Facebook moderator, which I'm not one. And they're just in there
like
to control.
Officer?
Yes. They're in there to be like, hey, we said you can't swear at people. If you do that again, we're going to kick you out of here.
Jeez.
Wow.
And they work for Facebook.
You got to get me kind of excited to try it.
It's amazing.
But also, I feel like I might be hooked. I don't know if I want to.
It's amazing, and you will. It's very easy to get hooked on it, but it's bad for the flesh because, like, you're going to live. I mean, you're just going to, like, plug in, and, you know, that's where you live. You don't live in here anymore, and this is going to be pale, and it's going to be sick, and they're going to suck you for microtransactions until you're dead.
You know? Microtransactions. Gotta love those. Huh?
And they're everywhere in there. Like, you can do tons of, like, you can go to a concert. They have whole concerts in there. I've seen Macklemore live, like, at the place, Macklemore live with other people, like, we're in the club, like an actual place in New York, that they live stream the whole thing, and you can walk around. It's not flat. You can literally walk around the stage, and he's performing like a whole band, everything. I've seen him. I've seen Bad Bunny. I've seen probably like 5 of them, and they were really cool. And that's the dangerous part. Is, like, even me, I'm saying, like, fuck, man, this is, like, really cool, but it doesn't add any value to when I'm back in the real life, right? Like, I'm able to make that distinction and have some fun in there and then get back to life. But it's
probably
like,
makes it worse. You probably must, like, be disappointed from real life.
You're just like,
at least for the beginning, and until you get back into it.
And something else happens when you have it on. This is something else. When you're in there, I've been in there for hours before. When you come out, the color out here is a lot duller. Like, even though this is a bright, like, we're all bright, there's orange, you guys are snazzy, the lights are there. Even that, when you, like, take the headset off, you're like, wow, like, it was so much brighter in there. Like, everything.
Right out here.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, that's a frightening thing, but also pretty exciting too. It's like I want to dip my toes in, but I feel bad for the youth growing up in that.
Yeah, because that'll be all that they know. Like, the flesh will be, you know, like I said, they don't like how they look. I'd rather look like this in there.
So you did speak about concerts being in there.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that's an opportunity for artists to create a following through the metaverse? Do you think that might be a new pathway to help market themselves?
Yeah, I think it's great if you can, because right now you can even get a dev kit to build your own place in the metaverse. And that's totally free. You just get the certification, and then you can build, I could build a studio in the metaverse and then get it approved through Facebook, and then it's like in there. It's kind of like getting like a social media profile,
sure,
but a place in there, and then when you guys log in, you can, like, come to my house in there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes.
That's amazing and frightening, like I said before.
And it's even, and here's another thing I tell people, it's even crazier than I can even explain it. You like have to experience it for yourself. Like go tonight, buy a Quest 3, 256 gig model, log in and like see what I'm talking about because it'll blow your mind. Like the hoops is like the hoops. Like it's playground hoops. And you see full-bodied people, and you play like this. Like you dribble like this. You can put it in between your legs, pass it, shoot it. It's all that. Like you got to have some space to play.
I was gonna say, do you need like a
6 foot by 6 foot? They recommend at least.
Do they have like those multi-directional like treadmills you can get? Like
they have them. You can get it, yeah. But you know what I use? I have like a mat, and as long as you can stay within that mat, like reminds me. Yeah,
that's cool.
So with all these distractions, right, we have the metaverse, we have AI now, we have more music being put out than any time in history. What advice would you give to an artist starting out that wants to build a following and become successful in the music game?
Man, it's, what could you do? Here's what I think, and I say this all the time too. The fundamentals to me, now that like I'm also like a student of life, right? So it's like I read, you read the, how to get friends and influence, people and Think and Grow Rich and, all those books, How to Outwit the Devil and all the basic principles that were talked about 100 years ago. It's like it still applies now. Like the fundamentals of like, get up, put the work in. Like say you want to work out, follow your nutrition, do the workout, and sure, could I just go shoot something in my arm and go lift and eat a bunch of steak and get big and cheat my way? Yeah. Could I buy my way into the music game and buy views? Yeah, but it's like that's not sustainable. So like my best advice is figure out how, like I said about the money, figure out how to be sustainable. Like when I said money for a rainy day, right? The rainy weeks and stuff. If success to me is that you can wake up tomorrow and you can do what you did today with no problem, right? Like I can wake up, I know that I can wake up tomorrow and record music and I can go to dinner if I want to and I can help someone if I want to and it's sustainable. So you got to figure out how to keep yourself so you can keep going in whatever you want to do, in business and music and whatever. Just lay the foundation. Just don't lay a foundation of BS. Because
the pillars of sand, right? You don't want it to collapse on you.
Then you wake up. Then you wake up and you're just like, oh man, like
it's kind of like that easy come, easy go, right?
Exactly. And you know what? I'm sure you guys experience it too, where like I've gotten easy money in my life and it's gone just as fast. And the money that I worked for or like I did it with like the right intention, I like still have that money. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
True. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to end it. That was amazing advice there.
Thanks. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah, that was great. The fundamentals.
More
than anything.
In life and music.
In life and music, yeah. And that's what I teach my clients, And if you want to possibly get some one-on-one coaching, just go to my first name, last name.com, MikeHitt.com, which there's another good piece of advice, fortune telling. I suggest everybody buy your first and last name.com.
I already got that one, so I need another tip.
Like that, people don't realize how critical that is because whenever we do go full digital, like you don't want someone owning, johnsmith.com. It's like, man, now I need to own johnsmith3.com. And like now I'm not the official John Smith. Like as soon as I could buy MikeHitt.com, that's what I did. I'm like, I need this.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice.
All right, you greedy pigs. Well, you saw him here. Mike Hitt, the one, the only, owner of MCM Studios in Pittsburgh, PA.
Love life, live rich.
People we know.
Thanks for having me, too. And let me tell you, I wish you guys all the success. I've known you guys. I've known them for like years now, and I just want to tell the viewer that you're serious about what you do. You're always serious about every venture you take. And you guys inspire me as much as I hope to just keep inspiring you. You do. And you're good friends to me. And I hope that I've been a good friend to you. And we keep growing. And I hope the viewer learned something from us today.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, one of the best, man.
Yeah, thanks.
One of the best
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Thanks for being on.
All right, and subscribe, you greedy pigs. Don't forget, subscribe, okay? This takes a lot of work.
Subscribe to
All
them.
right, subscribe.
And for MCM.
Yeah, and
too.
follow me on Instagram.
Mike Hitt with
Peace.
2 T's.
We'll put in the description.